Good morning. Happy Monday. Today is Monday, November 30. It's the last day of November. And this video is only for students that did not show up to Zoom today. So if you watched the Zoom, if you participated in that, and you talked with your classmates and me about grit, then you do not need to watch this video. I've already got your name down and I've already given you points. This video is for people who didn't come to Zoom class. So what we talked about in Zoom, and I recommend doing that if at all possible, instead of just listening to me talk, is we talked about something called grit. And grit is a combination of like perseverance, like working hard at something, and passion, or having like an emotional drive behind what you do. So you put those two things together and you get a characteristic that makes you willing to keep working at something for a long time because you've got a reason to work at it. And I thought about doing this because in November there was in the news, I don't know if any of you guys heard it, but there was a guy with Down syndrome from Florida. He was 21 years old and he did an Ironman. And an Ironman is 2.4 miles of swimming in ocean, like in open water. So he did it in the ocean, choppy waves that day. And then the next part of the race is 112 miles on a bike. It takes about 8 hours. And then after that, you run a marathon, which is 26 miles, 42 kilometers. And you have 17 hours to finish. If it takes you longer than 17 hours, they say, oh, good try, but you're not an Ironman. But this guy with Down syndrome did it, and he had a guide with him. If you have a disability of some kind, either you're blind or whatever it is, they keep you safe by giving you a guide when you do the Ironman race. And so Chris had a guide with him, and for the swim and for the run, they actually were like tethered together with like a leash kind of thing, just to make sure that Chris didn't get lost. But the crazy thing is that he did it. So this guy, Chris, he can't tie his own shoes. Like when he gets up in the morning and is going to go for his run, his dad ties his shoes for him because his fingers like can't do that. So my son Jeremiah has Down syndrome, which is why I'm super interested in this. So Chris can't tie his own shoes. And so when he gets up in the morning to run, his dad ties his shoes for him. He can't get on his bike by himself. So, and you'll see a picture of this when you watch the video of Chris. I put them on Edpuzzle. His guide or his coach holds his bike while Chris gets on. Like we do that for Jeremiah because Jeremiah's balance is really bad because of the Down syndrome. Your ears are different and also your brain. And balance is a combination of your ears and your brain and like the way your whole body works together. And Jeremiah's balance is, he can't stay up on a bike. Plus, Jeremiah is like, he gets so distracted, he'll like be looking at the birds and whatever else. And he'll look at his shadow all the time. So it's just dangerous because he doesn't pay attention to where he's supposed to be going. But this guy, Chris, the 21-year-old guy from Florida, he just doesn't have the balance. But once he gets going, then he can stay on the bike. So it's just interesting that in order to bike 112 miles, you don't have to be able to get on the bike by yourself. You just have to be able to keep going once you're on the bike. And the same with the running. In order to run a marathon, you don't have to be able to tie your running shoes on by yourself. Someone else can tie your running shoes on for you. You just have to be determined to keep going for 26 miles. And Chris has that. And he has a really good coach. It's the guy in the film you'll see, Dan, who's his guide, is his coach also. And he knows him and he encourages him and he knows what he needs and he pushes him and he also keeps telling him how terrific he is. So it's a great combination of things. But I want you to think about your life and when in your life you have had grit. When you've had to like keep working at something, even though maybe you didn't see any improvement or any reason or any evidence that it was working for a while, but you kept working at it. So I'll think, like when I started, when I was little, the way I learned to ride a bike, I did it by myself. And I lived in Michigan, so there was grass. And this is not a great story of grit because it only lasted like a week. And for a good grit story, it takes longer than a week. We had grass in our yard because in Michigan there's grass. And I thought grass would be soft to fall on, and I knew I was going to fall. And there was a tree in the middle of the yard, and away from the tree's roots, the ground like just sloped, not a lot, just a little bit, and the tree was like in the middle. So I took my little green Schwinn that was a hand-me-down from my cousin, and the Schwinn that's a kind of bike, and I stood next to that tree because I knew I would need help getting onto the bike. And then I knew the first thing I had to figure out was how to not fall. I knew how to pedal from having a bike with training wheels. So I thought I don't need to learn how to pedal. I just need to learn how to stay balanced. And over again, I just went to the tree and I leaned on the tree and got on the bike and then just coasted down that little slope. It was like 20 feet. It wasn't even like as far as across the classroom here, until I started to feel like maybe I could pedal once or twice when I was going down that hill. And then the next day I did it again. And at first when I got on, it was all wobbly, and then after a while I could coast down that little hill, and then after a while I could coast and then pedal a few times. And I did this like every afternoon. I think it might have been spring break because we were home from school, and I was a little bit bored. And my parents didn't let us watch TV all the time. So we just went outside. And I just did a little bit of that balancing down the hill. And I fell a lot, but the grass was soft. I never really got hurt, just maybe a bit bruised if the handlebar got me in the leg or something like that. But by the end of spring break, I could bike, like I could get on it. I still needed to like lean against something when I was getting on it, something I could put my hand on. And then I'd start to pedal and then I could go. And I really liked being able to ride my bike around. We lived on a paved road that didn't have much traffic. And there wasn't goat heads where I lived. So I wasn't getting flat tires all the time. And I loved being able to just bike around in that paved road and feel like I was going kind of fast, even though it was just like little kid fast, but still, I was proud of myself for doing that. So that was a time when I had grit when I was younger. I think about you guys doing online school, and every single day you guys have to do it, and it's not really fun. You don't get to see your friends. It requires a lot of grit. So if you want to give me examples of how you're talking yourself through that with online school, that can be your example. I know as a teacher, my job isn't as fun this year as it normally is because I normally love hanging out with you guys. The funny things that you guys say in class, like even a few of you guys came for in-person school once a week for a few weeks before that got to be too dangerous. And I have plants all in my room now this year, and 2 of them are cactus, or 3 of them. And one of the students joked, and he talked about last year, back when Mrs. Ippel's classroom wasn't a dangerous place because you weren't sitting next to a cactus. But I just thought, you guys are just funny, and I don't have you around being funny this year. It's just me and a bunch of plants, and they don't crack jokes. So I need some grit to get through this year. I need to think, okay, I need to make 4 lessons this week. The first one is going to be about grit, about doing hard things that we don't really want to do, and we have to do them for a long time. I love having you guys learn. I think my favorite assignment of the whole year was reading or listening to your Thanksgiving videos because I got to see little bits of your personalities and how you're different from each other. And it wasn't an assignment where there was a right or a wrong answer, so you could just be creative. I liked that. But I need grit for this school year, and I imagine that you need grit for this school year too. Another time in my life where I need grit is actually just being a mom. Like you have a baby, and whether you give birth to them or whether you adopt them, babies are really cute and snuggly, and I know that they spit up on you when they burp and stuff, and they have stinky diapers, but babies are just so sweet. And those of you that have little brothers or sisters or nephews and nieces, they have that wild hair that goes everywhere, and they're just so cute. But they need a parent for like 2 decades every single day. And that's a lot of work. And so being a mom takes a lot of grit also. So your assignment is to watch either one of the videos about Chris Nikich, this guy with Down syndrome. And while you're watching, think about the fact that he can run a marathon even though he can't tie his shoes. And he can ride 112 miles on his bike, 8 hours, even though he can't get on the bike by himself. And they talk about that in one of the videos, how when he's going to like drink from his water bottle, he can't do that while he's riding. And most of the people in the Ironman can, or else you lose time if you have to stop. But he has to stop and get off his bike and then drink and then get back on his bike. And the spot where he stopped, there was a bunch of fire ants. And so he got fire ant bites like all over his legs. And so that slowed him up more. But you don't have to be able to be like coordinated enough to drink from your water bottle while you are biking in order to ride 112 miles on your bike for an Ironman. There's ways around these things, okay? So think about that while you watch. And then on Seesaw, you can either tell me a story with the video recording feature, or you can type it in. Tell me a story about a time in your life when you have had grit, when you have had to work at something for a long time, and probably the first time didn't work, like with my bike, how I knew I was going to fall, but I kept working at it. Maybe you were doing something that you knew that you were going to have a hard time with at first, but eventually you would get it. Or maybe it was something like me being a teacher this year, or me being a mom, where it's just going to be a long time of being hard. Even though there's fun moments in it. I mean, I love being a mom, but it's really hard. I love being a teacher, but during coronavirus, it's really hard. So something can be really hard, even though you really want to do it. And in order to push through, you've got to have that grit. Okay? So tell me a story of you and your grit. And I will see you in Zoom on Thursday. And tomorrow we'll have a regular lesson video. Okay? See you later.